What if I told you that in many countries throughout the world, residents are multilingual, speaking 2, 3, 4, or even more languages, something that is often rarely found in the United States? Why is that? And what can Americans learn from a global education, from studying abroad or engaging those who come here from abroad? We're joined tonight by Angelo Fattore, who has worked in various countries throughout the world and today works in higher education here in the United States. He'll break down those questions and share his experiences and what we can learn from our neighbors around the world. That's all coming up right here, right now. I'm Sam Chen, and this is Face the Issues. Good evening and welcome to Face the Issues. I'm Sam Chen. In nations throughout the world, it is not uncommon to find people who speak more than one language, 2, 3, 4, sometimes even more than that. And oftentimes, this is something they grow up with. But here in the United States, it's rare to find somebody who is bilingual, trilingual, or could speak more than 2 or 3 languages. But why is that? And what can we as Americans learn from a global education, from our neighbors around the world? We're joined tonight by Angelo Fattore. He's been on the show before. He has traveled the world. He has worked in various countries in both hemispheres around the world, and he works today in higher education here in the United States. Angelo, welcome back to Face the Issues. It's so good to have you here.
Thanks, Sam. Thanks for having me back. I think we're like 2 years, almost from like the week or so that I was first on the show. Wow. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great to have you here. Last time you were here, you were running for Man of the Year with LLS, and we're talking about just that work and the work that they're doing. And today we get to talk about something that's near and dear to your heart. Not that wasn't, but something that you work in, and in higher education, and in this idea of global education, expanding the classroom beyond the 4 walls and into the community, but also into the world. Let me start by asking you this. You have worked in different countries, different continents, Australia, Ireland, Poland. You studied abroad in the United Kingdom. Let me just start with the basic. What made you first decide to leave the United States and go somewhere else in the world?
Yeah, that's a great question. I get that question a lot from even my parents. Why did I want to leave? And I think just from having the opportunities, or being provided to have the opportunities to do that. I'm a first-generation college student. My family, my parents didn't go to college. I'm a proud union-made family. And it was the ability that maybe I'm not going to have this chance again. And when my first time I went abroad was I did a 2-week international business program at the University of Oxford, and it's like the opportunity fell, and I was like, I have to do it. And I was very grateful. My grandmother helped me fund that opportunity, and it's like you kind of catch the bug, and you just want to keep going, exploring this world. There's so much out there to explore, even for those who haven't been out of the country yet, to just go up to Canada and see Toronto and see Niagara Falls. There's so much to explore, and I've just been lucky enough to have these opportunities come to me.
Yeah. So you went in this 2-week program. You are a alumnus of Northampton Community College, where I teach, as well as Moravian University, where you work now. But before you came back to Moravian, you went abroad. I mean, you worked abroad in multiple countries. And so what kind of got you to go back after your first time abroad? Yeah,
after that first time, like I said, you kind of catch this bug. You kind of catch this excitement to see, to keep seeing more. And in my second time, I did a 3-month co-op in Dublin, Ireland, and kind of got to expand myself across across Europe a little bit. Got to go to Belgium, Iceland. I was out to Czech Republic for the first time, which I've been 5 times now, and you kind of fall for it. There's a little bit of romanticism in there, but I think it was I didn't know when I was going to have the next opportunity to do this, and my parents, they put a lot into me, and I wanted to go and say, hey, like, I want to bring you along with this too. My mother and her mom, my 83-year-old grandmother at the time, came and visited me in Dublin.
That's
so
cool.
we was able to bring the whole family along on my kind of educational journey and also a travel journey too.
That's so cool. One of the things I said from the top was a lot of these countries, they speak multiple languages, and and also just there's study after study has shown that Americans, not only do the majority of Americans only speak one language, and if we're honest, we don't always speak it great, but also there seems to be a lack of global education among Americans, a lack of understanding where other countries are, understanding what other cultures are, where languages are. I was talking to somebody, I won't say what network they're with, they're a major news network. And when the United States withdrew from Afghanistan, this person had called me and they said, I had no idea that Afghanistan wasn't in Africa. And I said, well, why did you think it was in Africa? I said, well, it's in the Middle East. I said, why do you think the Middle East is in Africa? And just and they work for a major news network, and just absolutely there's almost no sense of where things are around the world. When you traveled around and you worked in these other countries, you met people in these other countries, is that the same there, or do they have a pretty good grasp on where they are, where other countries are, and kind of that global experience?
Yeah, I can't really speak for the whole gambit of the United States, but yeah, I think when I go abroad, there's just a knowledge base of people know where things are at a little more. They're following, I think, the news in real time, and I think that's a big part of the United States' impact abroad. So they kind of see it. When I went abroad the first time, the second time to Ireland, it was 2017. It was the election, the January 2017, the new election cycle just ended. The president was coming in at that time, and you kind of, people knew what was going on. It wasn't, they weren't ignorant. People around the world are not ignorant to what happens in the United States. That's something I found very shocking the first time I went abroad, or the second time I went abroad to Ireland. But people know what's going on. They pay attention.
Oh, that's really fascinating. Let me ask you this. People who are wary of traveling abroad, or have you sensed that with Americans let's put COVID aside for a moment. There's obvious reasons that the world we weren't traveling everywhere during COVID era. And let's put aside countries where we have tribal advisories against them. But in the general sense, is there a wariness or a nervousness among Americans to travel abroad?
I think it's a generational thing. I think it's the opportunities. I don't really know what the exact pinpoint of it is. But I think the more I've seen second generation college students have the opportunity to study, to go to college, they're taking those opportunities more because their parents have seen that opportunity and maybe weren't able to take it, but they wanted their kids to do it. For first generation college students, it might be just that impact where they don't know, and they don't know how to navigate that and how to go through that. Things we're doing, just speaking more at a micro level at Moravian University, we have this great initiative, a part of our undergraduate experience called Elevate, where we built in a travel experience for all incoming freshmen. We're in our third year of it, for them to take the opportunity to go abroad. Our president, Dr. Brian Grigsby, is very passionate about this and wants our students to have that experience. And it comes to them at little or no cost. It's built into the tuition, so their ability to take advantage of this is great. And our lovely Center for Global Education takes care of these students. We got about 11 to 20 trips that run 2-week experiences. And it's getting them out there, and it's giving them the ability to do that.
What have you seen the response? Are students, you talked about the generational difference, are students today interested and really, are they filling up the spots, or is it more like pulling teeth to get people to want to go abroad?
From what I understand, they are filling up the spots, and they're taking advantage of these opportunities. And I think looking at it more even generationally, the access to social media, the access to see other things that are going around the world, their students are able to see those things. Travel has come be more democratized. There's more budget travel agencies and travel airlines where students are able to take advantage of cheaper flights rather than years before where it was very expensive to do this.
Yeah. Let me ask you about some of the reservations that we hear. People are concerned about not knowing the language if they go to, say, France and they don't speak French, or they go to Germany and they don't speak German. I mean, you've traveled, I guess in the UK you speak the language, but you've traveled to other places, to Poland. You worked in Poland. Unless you're not fluent in Polish, I don't think.
No, moje polskie jest bardzo słabe. My Polish is very weak.
Better than mine. But how do you assuage those fears? Like, what do you tell people who are going, well, I don't know the language, I can't go to a place like that?
I think that's one of the biggest things I hear. And working with recruiting international students to come to the United States who already have a grasp of English, they don't have that same reservation. It's very commonplace in the major metropolitan areas. If we're speaking in Europe in general, I don't know that much about Africa, Asia, South America, but in Europe in general, I've never had an issue in a major metropolitan area finding someone that knows a second language, knows English. It's pretty commonplace. The more you go east, it gets a little more difficult. But I think it's just the fear factor of the unknown. I'm going and traveling overseas. How am I going to be able to communicate? Take for instance a city like Prague, where one of my favorite cities in Europe. I've never had an issue speaking English there. I think there is students are just as businesses become more global, as European headquarters open for international headquarters open, English has just become a native, almost I wouldn't say native, but it's just almost a requirement to learn for a lot of just to do business.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Angelo, we're going to cut the break. When we come back, I want to continue this conversation, just other concerns that we sometimes hear about traveling abroad. And then I want to shift us into talking about what we can learn from going abroad and so forth. So don't go away.
All right.
We'll be right back.
Face the Issues is produced and recorded in the studios of Lighthouse TV. Positively different. Watch Lighthouse TV wherever you go. Available on Roku, Amazon Fire TV, and Apple TV. You can view our in-house studio productions on demand, or watch what's on the station right now with our 24/7 live stream. Search Lighthouse TV online on your streaming device, or go to our website for more information. Visit lighthousetv.org to stay connected. There you can find out what's currently on the air and coming up, how to watch in your area on cable, satellite, broadcast, or streaming devices. Watch past programs or our live stream. Follow us on social media and learn more about the station, our hosts, and our programming. Lighthouse TV, positively different.
Welcome back to Face the Issues. Angelo, thank you again for being here. Let's pick up right where we left off. We're talking about the language situation. One of the things I thought was really neat was you respond to that in Polish, even though you're saying that you don't speak a lot of Polish. Yeah. But it does seem like the best way to learn a language, too, is actually just be immersed in it and to be in that country.
Yeah, I found that even in traveling, even taking the trains across Europe, that you start to pick up. Kind of when I went to Europe, kind of got into the continent out off of the United Kingdom, you kind of get in this almost survival mode where you kind of need to learn, or your brain starts picking up on things. That's what I've just found in personally traveling. But to really be immersed in it, to really be in it, I feel like you get the most out of it. We have great language programs here in the United States, but I really think going there and experience it, and just not the language, but how people the body language that people have, the food, like all that is such an aspect to it.
Yeah, and let me ask about that. The cultural differences can be vast, and even we do etiquette coaching with people here in America, but we also coach diplomats as they go overseas. When you're in Europe versus America, there's different ways to signal that you're done eating your meal, things like that. Different ways to handshake. Different, in America you look someone in the eye. In the Asian cultures, that's not that's considered impolite. Did you have to learn all this to go abroad?
No, I think from the countries I've been to, they've been Australia and Europe has a lot of similarities to America, especially in the major metropolitan cities, London, Paris, Amsterdam. They would really remind you of New York City.
Okay.
I think the one thing that I found, and it's really important to me, is in the U.S. here we say, "Oh yeah, let's catch up," and you'll probably never see that person again.
Okay,
it's kind of a nicety. It's like, "Oh yeah, you're fine." Like, yeah. Like, we'll do it. But when you really do that in Europe, and you say, "Oh," when somebody invites you into their home or says, "Oh yeah, come over, let's hang out sometime," you go and do that.
Oh wow.
I found it as something that's very respectful, and something that they'll kind of look down at you as, like, from my experiences that I found that, like, I'm inviting you into my home. I found that also people are just proud. There's a proudness. I've friends with a vice rector out in east of the Czech Republic, and he's so proud to talk about his university and talk about his thing. I think people are proud in general in the United States, but just that passion that he has for it, it speaks that, just differences that I've seen.
That's really neat. I think it reminds us, I say this a lot as a political scientist, that as things are becoming more and more global, and yet in the midst of that, things are still very national, and people are proud to be Czech or to be French or to be Australian or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
I remember I had an instructor in college, a tennis instructor who was from New Zealand, and every time people called him an Aussie, he just lost it. Right? There's a certain pride in who you are, in that identity. That's really neat to see. Let me ask you about the question I know every viewer is wondering about: international food. Is that the best part of international travel? What is it like experiencing other foods? Is it that different? What's that like?
So what I do when I travel to a new country is I don't eat fast food a lot. I really just don't have a taste for it anymore. But I do when I go to a new country, I will go and try the McDonald's or the Burger King to try it out.
Is it different?
It's different. I think it tastes better a little bit. But I think the food does taste different. It's, especially in Europe, it's a little more bland.
Okay.
But there's different health regulations and food safety regulations there, and it tastes bland, a little more on the blander side, but it's more healthier for you.
Sure.
From having, what's a good example? Having kangaroo down in Australia,
Oh my goodness.
very tough, very muscly, to having, what's a good example? I've having goulash soup in the Czech Republic, and it's all good. I enjoy it. It kind of pushes you out of your comfort zone a little bit, and that's what this is to do when, especially college students studying abroad. It is to push them out of their comfort zones.
Sure.
It is to get them to take that leap and try something different.
And for those who, to your point earlier, for those who don't love new tastes, there is apparently McDonald's in every country around the world.
I wouldn't say every country, but a lot of countries do have a McDonald's. Yes,
so
from
neat.
my experience.
What you said earlier about the regulations of food are different from country to country. We see that in the United States, obviously. It was interesting, a few years ago, an article came out in Britain that Subway sandwiches was trying to appeal a ruling. So just, you said fast foods, a lot of countries have it. American company. Apparently the bread that Subway sandwiches uses has such high sugar content that Great Britain classified it as cake. And Subway was trying to appeal this decision. So that may be why food's a little bit more bland in Europe.
I haven't heard of that article, but I just think I've always had a great experience with the food, and especially the more mom and pop shops that I've gone to. I remember there's I forget the name of it, I forget how to pronounce it, but there's, in the hills in Prague, there's just a little mom and pop snack shop that great little potato pancakes, great just goulash soup. It's so good, so good.
That sounds incredible. That sounds absolutely incredible. Angelo, let me ask you this about just the pragmatic side of this, and we talked about the language. You don't have to know it to go abroad, or we talked about the experience of the food. There's a lot of questions I think Americans have if they've never been abroad about like how do you plan that trip, and flights and everything are somewhat easy to figure out now, but how do you plan the trip? How do you decide what country to start with? What advice do you give somebody who's looking to go abroad?
I would say, when I started doing it in college, for college students out there, work with your global education office, work with your study abroad advisor. I think that's the great first step to do that. If you're not in school, if you're looking to do that, I would say there's a lot of websites out there that have very budget-friendly ways to look at traveling, but just pick one spot. I would say sometimes when people go abroad, and I got the excitement to do this, is when I went to Europe, I wanted to go to all the countries because you can just get on a train and you can go.
Which is different than here in the States. What takes us from here to Ohio, you go through at least a country or two in Europe.
You get to just, you can stop on one, go to the other. This past time I went and did a little loop through, started it in the Netherlands, went to Belgium, over to the Czech Republic, and I took the train from Prague over to Dusseldorf. So I went through there, up through then Amsterdam. So I was able to stop off, and they make it very convenient. I think this is what I talk to my friends about all the time, is that they made it very convenient. The Europeans made it very convenient to travel by train, and it's something that they're able to exchange things, and you're able to do things a lot quicker. Yeah.
One question that comes up a lot when we talk about travel: why are hostels so different in Europe? Europeans who come here, and I'll ask you about that in a moment, but Europeans who come here and they see hostels, I also tell them, no, a hostel in America is radically different than a hostel in Europe. Have you stayed in a hostel in Europe?
Yeah,
What's that like?
I can say that. I think they are great experiences. I think I'm starting to graduate to starting to stay in hotels just as you're getting older, but they're just a friendly budget way to travel, and they can range from large rooms where you have 8 to 10 people that bunk beds. You have lockers. A lot of them are, you have to do your research on some of them. Sometimes you do find one that, but the ones that I stay in are pretty good. Or they range up to where you may have 2 to 3 roommates in it, and it's very, very comfortable, or singles. So it's a very budget-friendly way to kind of see a city and just keep hopping on to the next one.
In your travels, I'm assuming as you travel through, there's a lot of different people that you meet, friends that you make that live in other countries. What's the biggest difference between the people you meet abroad and people here in the United States?
People I've met abroad, I think I'm gonna kind of turn your question a little bit. I think I have great friends that live overseas, and I still keep in touch with today. But I've been able to create a lot more friends here in the United States too, because of just having that unique experience of studying abroad and of going abroad, because you find that unique pocket of people that have done that, and you just have this connection. I've actually been able to make friends through traveling back here in the United States as I have abroad.
That's interesting. Your studies abroad or your travels abroad actually help open more opportunities and relationships in the United States.
I mean, absolutely. And I been able to make friends with in the Czech Republic, and at the end of the month I'll be going to the Czech embassy cool. For an event. So in DC. So it's those opportunities that you've taken to challenge yourself and go abroad have opened up many, many opportunities to me back home.
That's really neat. Last question in this segment. Obviously, we can go abroad. There are also a lot of people around the world that come to the United States.
Yes.
I'm sure you've engaged with a lot of them, and your travels abroad have helped with that. For those who haven't gone abroad yet, what advice do you give them about engaging those who come here from other cultures that speak other languages and so forth?
Yeah, and this is what I do on a daily basis. I work with all of our F1 recruitment. I recruit the F1 students that come to specifically get a degree in the United States for Moravian University. And I think one of the things that has helped me is having that relationship of saying, hey, I've done this, I've gone to a new country. But for those, I would say, really just take the time to learn about that country. If you know somebody from there, take the time to really sit down and say, hey, what's it like that you've been there? I've had very unique opportunities just even in the last couple months to learn about different parts of the world from people I've met as students I'm bringing in and professionals here in the States.
That's awesome. Angelo, thank you for just giving us that insight. We're going to go to the break and we'll be back. So don't go away. We'll be right back.
Face the Issues is produced and recorded in the studios of Lighthouse TV. Positively different.
Welcome back to Face the Issues. Angelo, thank you again for joining us and for just giving us insight. So many Americans don't travel abroad, and for somebody who's done it multiple times to really come and give that insight, I deeply appreciate it. I know our viewers do. Let me ask you this as we close out. As somebody who's done it, what would you say to somebody who maybe is on the fence about it? Why is it so important in your mind that we do see abroad and that we engage with people who come here from abroad, that we really expand our classroom beyond the four walls, but also beyond our borders?
Yeah, I think the first one is my first answer is we need to just keep expanding. We need to keep growing ourselves. We need to keep building relationships with people. Interestingly enough, today I was out in Harrisburg. Along with my work at Moravian University, I sit on the board of Study Pennsylvania, which is supported by the United States Commercial Service. It's a state consortium of schools. We were there with PACE, which is the Pennsylvania Council of International Education, and we were meeting with colleagues from the Department of Education and the Department of Community and Economic Development. And one of the things I heard today is from the Community and Economic Development is that 1 in 5 jobs in the state, in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, are impacted by international trade. So that's 20% of the jobs in Pennsylvania are impacted by international trade. So I think that's really important that we continue to build relationships overseas. We continue to learn that kindness we have for other people, because it really boils down to a net economic impact. And just as we're closing here, NAFSA, which is the International Education Industry Organization, came out with an economic impact report. And from what I read this morning, just looking at the numbers, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania has had a $4 billion impact by international students in, I think, the 22-23 year, don't quote me on that, but the most recent report that came out. So, it is important. It comes down to brass tacks. It becomes very, very important.
Not only does the United States have a global impact on other nations, but other nations have a global impact on us. Absolutely.
And, here, just where we're at in the Lehigh Valley, there's so many international companies here, from Olympus to B. Braun, Air Products. There's so much going on, and it's really, it's just so important.
Yeah. Well, thank you for being the example for so many of us about what that would look like. Angelo, it's always great to have you on the show. We'll have to have you back soon.
Absolutely, Sam.
That is our show for tonight. My thanks to Angelo Fattore for joining us, for really shedding insight and giving us the insider look about what it looks like to travel abroad and why that's so important for us to expand the walls of our classroom. Again, thanks to each of you for joining us as well. We hope to see you again right back here next week. Until then, my name is Sam Chen. On behalf of all of us here at Face the Issues, thank you and good night.